right, excited to get into episode number 2 here. We've got a lot to talk about. I'm like a rabbit this morning. Been working on putting in place a project management tool for my team to better manage our work. And I hit a barrier because it's like a different language. I don't know. It seems like it comes really naturally and easy to a lot of people. But for me, I'm actually oriented in a lot of ways to be systematic. Like I think like that I always want to take an idea and put it in a system. But I
start from the beginning. So for project managing, are you looking so you can view everything your team is doing at that given time and they're on track and progress?
Well, transparency is a big thing because I want to be able to at a click or two, see where something is in the process so I can, respond back to a client and say, here's where we are. Or even have the client have access to it to say, here's where we are. They don't even need us. They can look at, have transparency to a certain level. So I think that's a big deal. But the language of project management is sort of, it's a different language. Like I think people who have worked in these tools for a long time get it. They've worked on Asana. We're actually implementing Monday.com, which we can talk about. There's Airtable, there's ClickUp, and a handful of other ones that are historically known.
So how does Monday.com work? I'm familiar with Airtable and systems for banking.
Yeah, well, it's kind of funny because, and again, I'm speaking almost as a novice on the platform itself, but as very much a novice because I'm just starting to use it, working with my project manager to implement it. But it's funny because we were using Airtable for a long time, and I brought my project manager in to show her what we were doing, and she's like, "I've never used Airtable this way." To my point, it's like
that must be the way I use it too, though.
Probably, yeah. It's like I'm speaking Spanish and she's speaking Portuguese. Like there are some words that translate, but not everything translates.
The problem I have with systems like that, if I'm not using it every day, then I don't get the most out of it. So from now on, if there's not a system that I'm using at least 3 or 4 times a week,
that's right,
I'm just not going to get it because otherwise I won't get the use out of it no matter how good the system is.
That's a great point, and that's the whole purpose of why we're implementing this, because we want it to run us.
Okay.
We want it to be what they call a single source of truth. It's the place where everything exists when it comes to production.
So you're going to be able to eliminate all other softwares, the Airtables.
Yeah, all that stuff goes away. Now, we'll still have a CRM because that's client relationship focused. It has records, but it integrates, right? So if I'm keeping track of, let's say, a prospect we've been talking for, 6 months or so, and now it gets to a point where we want to do business, well, we can integrate that into the front end part of our process where we take them through and produce content and distribute that content. So the CRM is still very
But you've
valuable.
also been in business for many years before you've even gotten to this point. So how have you been doing it prior? Excel spreadsheets?
Yes. Yeah, mainly. And that's why I started with Airtable, which is funny because it's a table. It's like a glorified spreadsheet. And that's basically the way I started to use it. And apparently there's lots of ways to use it. Not like I'm using it.
I mean, when I started Airtable, I think I spent 1 weekend and just digested it and spent about 20 hours on it.
Yeah.
Loved it, got out of it, and was setting it up for the process for loans from talking to a customer. So who do you have that you're talking to? You've sent out applications where they're in that process of going forward. And then I found my departments were like, Ryan, we're already doing this in this level. We can just send you the Excel file. So, and so the loan operations already had their way that they were comfortable with in the checklist. So, okay. And I found when, the smaller departments, it was like, okay, well, if they're not bought in 100%, they're not going to use it.
Yeah.
It was nice that they spent the time going through it, building the cells, and I think they improved their model from it.
Sure. Well, because they got your perspective.
Yes.
Yeah. It was just very helpful.
And I still use Airtable here and there on keeping track of things for me, and especially it's easy to view on the phone.
Yeah,
and
but you kind of use it like a spreadsheet. Which spreadsheets you're more comfortable with?
Yes.
Yeah.
I didn't know there was too many other ways to use it.
I know, I didn't either. Well, apparently with creatives, they use it, in very creative ways.
I know you can put, you can link it to your site, and if you have a questionnaire, you
can pull in data.
You can
from forms.
Yeah, applications and kind of that area. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, I found out that I was using Airtable like Monday is set up. Okay. So I was like trying to get Airtable to do what I should have just been using Monday the whole time. So I didn't realize that until I got in there, and I'm like, okay, well, Monday doesn't make any sense to me, but if so I needed to back it into how we operate and the workflow that I want to have my team take my clients through, because I understand, as a lot of small business owners, you have to build in efficiencies. Even if you don't have documented systems, you have to be efficient. Otherwise, you just grow a third arm to get something done.
It's like procedures. Anything you do more than a couple times, no matter how big or small your operations are, you have to have procedures. That's right. The only way to really scale it.
Yeah, the protocol of how to get something done, checklists that are built in that can be audited or look back on. They're and a lot of times they become backstops because those checklists become sort of the nature of what you're doing.
And I fought against it many years at the beginning of my career because I'm not built that way and have procedures. I'll just do the right thing, but that doesn't work, especially when you've got other employees. How can you hold them accountable? How can they hold themselves accountable? How do they know what to do? So you have to have procedures. And then, and ours having managers that know when at some point those procedures are going to be antiquated. And so they have to then come and say, hey, now we have a better way to do it. Now we have better software. And so you're at the point now where you've had your procedures and now you're wiping the slate clean.
I'm starting over. Good. And mainly because of how our work has evolved with our clients. It's both, we do project work, so we'll create content and deliver that to them on obviously this is on the Signal Media side of my media company. And then we have clients that we will just distribute, meaning we will just send it out on the social media channels, email, et cetera, and manage those for them. But then we have clients that are what we call blended, where you'll have, we'll create all the content or most of the content for them, and it will live somewhere, and then we'll distribute that on a timeline. So that's a lot of moving parts.
Yeah.
On which type of client we're working with, what kind of things we're doing. It all has to roll up to creative. This has to always have some level of creativity that is coming through to their audience at the end of the day that fulfills the goal that we're trying to achieve. So there's this big picture, and then there's this micro picture that has to be managed by myself and my team. So, now getting into Monday. So this morning, we're just kind of like thinking about it last night, going to bed. I'm like, I'm going to crack this nut. I'm going to figure out how to get this to work because this is not rocket science. Like there's plenty of people that know how to do this, but how does this work for me? And it was just about understanding how the platform is best utilized. So like it has folders, it has boards, it has all these terms. And like, well, what does that mean to me? Right? How do I use that? And it came down to understanding a framework of how I want my systems to operate, which is projects, stages of projects, and then steps within those stages, and then even more granular checklist within the steps. So once I got that figured out, then I started to build out a particular workflow. So pre-production, production, post-production, distribution workflows, and all of that nest inside of one, what I'm calling a campaign, client facing. But for our side, it's just a project.
Okay.
So I had to, it's like, I had to
But then from there, as you're building out everything, I'm sure you're going to be using Google Docs. You're going to be
all
using
that stuff, yeah.
A lot of other stuff. So you can link it all to it. So you can,
we use Google Drive, 100%.
So within
because
Monday,
all our files are huge. We have video files that are gigs, 10 gigs per file. So we have to use Drive. We can't use Monday. We can't put that stuff in there. So we have a one top folder link that goes to all of the files that are referenced in the workflow. We use Slack. So for all of our messaging. So
how are you building? Are you building repetitive tasks and procedures?
Yes.
For your, I would say they're all, 1099 workers.
Yeah.
So they're not necessarily employees.
Exactly.
But your team.
Yeah.
So it's developed within there.
Yeah. So let's take this show, for example, because we produced this show. The name of the show is Expandable. That's the project. That's sort of like the campaigner project. And then within that, we have our creative brief. What is it we're trying to accomplish? Who's our audience, et cetera. It's just a document that lives as a board. And then the next board is going to be pre-production. And we also have a board for content ideas and guests, right? So those things can live sort of in parallel to each other, but then they can be merged into the workflow.
Okay.
So then once we get into the workflow, it's production, post-production, and then staged, ready for distribution. Then we're in a distribution workflow. You're in revising, proofing, editing essentially, and then you're building and you're scheduling and publishing, and you have links to publish content. So all the way through from the idea is taking an idea and turning it into an episode.
So, we deal with a lot of software, but what about companies that aren't dealing with as much software? I know, whether you're a landscaper, you're going to have apps to collect payments and billing and that kind of stuff. What would you say to a landscaping company for repetitive tasks and procedures? How would they build that in their systems?
Well, I know it seems like a lot of companies that are more analog, that like historically analog, and archaic by nature wouldn't be technologically inclined, but you'd be surprised. The number of landscaping companies or maintenance companies or however simple you want to think about the business is we perform this one service for a fee every month, and we don't even have extra products. We just do this one thing. Mm-hmm. The number of those companies that are utilizing technology is unbelievable. I mean, it's almost like you have to utilize.
It's on their phones.
Yeah, you have to use all of that, and it has to be here. Now, as they start to grow and become more savvy and more mature as business owners and their businesses themselves, this is to the heart of what we're talking about. You can't not implement systems, at least for yourself as the owner.
Yeah.
Otherwise, you're just going to be crazy every day. You're working 80, 100-hour weeks. And then divide that by the money you're making. Yeah. You're making $5 an hour. You're not making any money. It's just not going to happen. So at some point you have to build systems into your business. And it usually happens when you hire your first person because you have to tell them what to do.
Yeah.
Right. So it would be great, like to the point of this whole episode.
If you've already had it written down for yourself, then it's a lot easier to turn over.
Yeah. When do you start building systems? I think you start with yourself. When you get up in the morning, what does your morning routine look like? That's a system, right? You brush your teeth, you floss, you run, you read, whatever it is. And there's a time commitment to that. There's, consistency to that. And then that goes into what your work morning looks like. You get in your car, you go to, all the things, the steps. It's stages. You have your early morning, you have your mid-morning, you have your early afternoon, you have your evening. These are stages. And then there's steps within those.
We had it tough here because when I took over in 2009 as CEO, everything was, it was archaic. Banking systems are typically archaic to begin with. So we had an older 1926. We still had manual records, even going back to 2009.
That had to have been tough.
Oh, yeah. So, I had to completely, there was no accessible way to really get procedures and policies.
Yeah.
And had to wipe the slate clean and just eliminate everything and start over and build in, because what you had even then, 3-ring binders with tabs that were procedures for how tellers would handle transactions.
Yeah.
Go back and forth. And everything from new account tabs, they would just input and switch in. So they would pull out a big 3-inch 3-ring binder and go through things. So all of that had to be accessible.
Yeah.
Now it's all built in, can be changed, timestamp, when it was last changed.
Yeah, talking about the lawn landscaping company that is historically not technologically inclined, all the way to now, in your sort of mid-market and above, companies have internal wikis where it's a knowledge base that, to your point, now all of this stuff is sort of fluid, and certain team members have access to change it. So having that in a database where someone can log in and make changes on the fly, if you have a new set of employees coming in to get trained, they can make changes the night before, and the new employees are going to see it a new way.
But you definitely limit who can make those changes.
Of course. Yeah. That depends on the size of your business. Yeah. Giving up, delegating.
Yeah.
So we're talking about systems because they're very important. When to start building them. We've talked about that, as soon as possible.
Right away.
Yeah.
Anything that is replicated do it more than a couple of times. And it goes me back to one of my most favorite business books. It was Essentialism.
Yeah.
And they talked about replication systems.
You know, that reminds me of the entrepreneur. Is it the entrepreneur's operating system? No, not that. That's Traction. I'm thinking of the what's that one? I mean, I just listened to it again like a few weeks ago. It's like the playbook for entrepreneurs. I'll think of it. And it's like right on the tip of my. I have to look it up. But it talks all about like you really basically, you know, unless your goal is to be the practitioner, you know, you are the engineer, you are the person that you love what you do and you want to build this sort of a lifestyle business around what you do and it's not going to grow, it's not going to scale. You have to look at your business as a mechanism for growth. It is a tool for growth.
Yeah.
So the only way to do that is start to think about how can I build new roles in the company that are valuable to the company and the client, and then replicate those.
Absolutely.
With systems.
And if you're a business that touches any type of regulatory agencies, whether it's OSHA,
yep,
whether it's, you know, financial regulatory bodies, if you don't have those policies and procedures in place.
Oh, you definitely have to have them.
Just do it from the beginning. Yeah.
E-Myth. That's an old, you know, kind of catch-all business book. There's a newer version, E-Myth Mastery. Very widely known, and basically that's the premise: is you have to replicate yourself. You know, you basically start with 10 or 15 different hats. You have to take hats off, you know, and replicate yourself.
I do believe after so many years, maybe even 6 months, but I see a lot of small businesses, they've replicated some things and they've got procedures, but they don't go back and redo them. They don't go and see what's more efficient.
Yeah.
And so they've just stuck in their old ways.
Yeah.
They haven't gone back to it. It hasn't worked. They're always putting out fires, but they have to take time and redo those.
Yeah.
I think there's so much lost time. I mean, I went and picked up ceiling tiles a few weeks ago from a distributor. And this contractor's place, I mean, they were just selling so much materials, especially this time. Huge outfit. I'm sure they were doing millions of dollars a week in sales.
Yeah.
But still, the way they were doing the billing and the way they were printing it out and the way they were stamping it and the way they were cataloging it, I'm thinking, oh my goodness.
Yeah.
They haven't changed in 20 years.
Yeah, there's
the
a
amount of
bottleneck.
efficiencies on that they could change.
Yeah.
And they're doing well. And so they're probably
usually
not top of mind.
Yeah.
But
what I found is usually the reason why things stay that way is because the owner doesn't want to change it, because there's some reason about it that he or she is able to control it. And that is the opposite mindset that you should have if you're trying to grow a business.
I see that, yes.
And they always become the bottleneck.
You know, and they may have a bookkeeper or someone they've been working with that is stuck in that way, and, you know, they've been working for them a long time, and, you know, they love that person, you know, they care about them, and they don't want to get, you know,
they don't want to
get them angry. They don't want to upset them.
Yeah.
You know, and that's just natural response.
That's also not putting your business and your customers first. You know?
No.
So who would you rather upset? The bookkeeper who's stuck in their ways, or the 100 customers that are upset that you are not?
But I see it all the time.
Yeah, it's unbelievable.
They're just upset. Yeah.
But to that point,
you've got to do it. You've got to rip the Band-Aid off.
You put systems in place and you want to come back. What I found is having a rhythm and having a priority. So prioritizing that in your business to say, I'm only going to grow if I prioritize duplication, system creation, and then the auditing of those systems of how they're going. You know, building people up in their role, because those roles usually have systems attached, or roles are attached to systems. And
well, I think that's a good topic you just hit on. Only going to grow if, and it's correct. You should not grow if you're not going to make more per unit.
Yes.
Or maybe you're not making more per unit necessarily, but you're not having to hire more staff. So you are, you know, are you getting cost effectiveness? The more you sell, the price is going down. So, or
complementary units, or complements to the actual core unit metrics.
Yeah.
You know,
because as you're growing your company and as you go from 1 employee to 3 employees, You want to go to 15 employees, you're going to have so many new jobs you created just to manage the other employees. And if your product is not scalable, you'll grow yourself into bankruptcy.
100%.
So.
And you can't have the mental space to think about what complements my product and how do I implement that, launch it, get customers to care about it, get their feedback. You can't have the mental space to think about all that if you don't have systems that are operating efficiently with your current core product.
Yeah.
So, to the point of that, and let's talk about what a good system can do for your business. So here I have some notes to the bookkeeper part of it. I think a lot of employees don't know what they're missing until they are part of a very efficient and effective system or process. They can think that the way that they're doing it, they may even have their heels dug in, but once you kind of turn the page, their life gets easier. Their life gets better.
Well, years ago, antiquated system was you would have a checklist. You have to do the following 10 items. Mm-hmm. And then what has changed a lot with automation is workflow, where you're doing item 5, but you could not have gotten to item 5 unless you completed 1, 2, 3, and 4.
That's right.
So being able to go in that workflow model also is way more efficient.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And then, you put a good system in place, and then coming back to it, there's lots of things now, especially with AI very quickly coming on the scene. There are things that you can automate, little things that if this happens, then this happens. If you're already using technology, when someone clicks done on this button, it can trigger a cascading effect of all these other things that are going to now happen without someone having to remember to tell someone verbally or through an email or however it may be. There's lots of automations that can fine tune and do that. But to the point, employee morale goes up.
Truth be told, the banking system, the back end, there's still a lot of automation to do because we're still reliant on the Federal Reserve systems. So customer facing stuff has come a long way.
Yeah.
Back end systems, there is still not
That's
the automation.
Be a challenge.
No, so you just have to automate your procedures and your policies and being able to identify issues, being able to reconcile quickly. And, that's the biggest automation is auto balancing.
So tied in with employee morale going up, which was kind of the whole point of that. I don't know if that came through, but, the employee morale you don't necessarily get, if you have efficiencies in labor, which is another benefit, you don't necessarily get rid of people. I think that can happen, but a lot of times people are freed up. Their mental space is freed up. Their time is freed up for them to do their jobs even better. So especially if they're customer facing.
But that takes a certain personality because I've had many employees over the years that they found comfort in the procedures. So they don't want to change.
Yeah.
And they won't come out and say it, but if those procedures got wiped away and it was automated, then they're like, well, I'm not going to have a position.
Yeah.
But if you were good enough to do those procedures in the first place, there's always going to be a position for you. You already have the backstory. You already know about the company, go through it. But, there's employees that have, over the years, gone into and been able to transition to another role where they flourish. And there's some that they could not click out of that. They wanted to have that, and they didn't have that comfort level going forward.
Yeah. I mean, with that scenario, it's about communication across the board. You should be communicating with your employees, clearly about their role ongoing. If that's happening, then you're going to know that this particular person feels very bought into the current checklist and the current procedures, and they love to come to work and check those things off. So you're going to have a problem when you change it.
Yeah.
So then if you're communicating with them, having that conversation on the front end to say, I think things are going to start to move in this direction. I can see that this is going to be a potential problem because I know you love what you do. I love how you do it. Let's talk together how we can work through this change because it's going to come and I don't want you to be upset. So involving them in that process so that they can be part of that new checklist because there's going to be a new checklist.
And now on the front end, when we're hiring and interviewing, we make sure that's part of their personality. Yeah. They like change.
Yeah.
That they flow into, because in the business world, that's the only thing that constant is change. So
that's
you have to be acceptable to it.
That's right. A couple other notes. Obviously, scalability is the underlying factor here. If you want expand. Systems are integral to that. One that you can probably speak to more specifically, as you mentioned a couple times, is mitigating legal issues and compliance, staying compliant. Systems allow you to have a documented way that your people work, back to the policies.
Yeah. And so, I mean, our industry is compliance. Banking is compliant. You've got to know your customer. You got to identify who they are, and ongoing. They trust you with your money. So I found is a lot of compliance did have a root cause. It was there for a reason. Something happened. Somebody got ticked off or somebody lost money. And so now there's a policy, there's a change, there's a law that enacted this compliance. And a lot of compliance gets pushed down from the regulator are not from people that actually do the work. They're from politicians that have an idea. They're from teachers who never worked, do as I say, not as I do.
Yeah, see that a lot.
So we found if you've got compliance that you have to do anyways, regardless, there are ways to build that in to your business.
Yes.
To get the most out of the compliance, get data from that compliance.
Yes.
And work into it. So
yes.
I've got a couple examples top of mind.
Yeah.
I'll come through it, but I'll come back to those. But so that's what we have kind of done over the last few years is really laid into compliance. So we built out our, what really came up big after 9/11 was Bank Secrecy Act. Really huge emphasis in banking. Strong reason for it. And so you can't shy away from it. You got to know your customer. You got to know that their transactions are above board. So lean into that. How can you integrate that in your business, and how can you grow those customers? And so that's what we did.
Yeah.
If you got to do it, get the best out of them.
I think
eliminate out of limits.
I think specifically to the audiences that's listening to this, it'd be interesting to hear from the commercial lending side how you think about systems.
Before we get to the commercial lending side, even if you've got manual labor, I found that years ago it was aluminum company, smelting. They were having a lot of injuries. And so they got a new CEO that came in, and what he found was, no, you don't want anybody to get, dropped, melted aluminum on you. That's going to kill you.
Yeah.
So, but as they got it more efficient and health-wise, they ended up having less spillage. And it's the same thing in having an assembly line. Yeah. A lot of times being more efficient, keeping people healthy and out of harm's way ends up making faster and efficiency.
Grow the business.
So they can go together. They can be symbiotic. So, yes, when a new regulation comes down, it's there. Nobody likes it, and there are some that are completely stupid.
Yeah. I think it's similar in our world. Constraints to creativity makes us more creative. So when that box gets put around you, it's not always a good thing, but sometimes it can be a really good thing because it makes you rethink how you do things. So I love that idea. Bringing compliance into the heart of it and owning it and saying, we're going to do this compliance part better than anyone, and it's going to therefore change how we do our business.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. So on the commercial lending side, I'd love to hear, from a system standpoint, as much as you can tell, how do systems help you on the intake, the processing, the thinking through, you're looking at financials. There's a lot of, I would think, customization that has to happen there too.
There is a lot of on that. And we've looked over the years, and depending on your size and, there's a lot of software and there's a lot of things that come out into automating commercial lending process, but there's a lot go into it. You can't always rely on credit, because self-employed individuals, their credit gets dinged all the time. So it doesn't mean they're not paying their bills because they have a 690 credit score.
Yeah.
I've seen business owners that are making $500,000, $1 million a year with a 700, 690 credit score, and they've never missed a payment. But because every time they've got a trade account at their wholesale manager, they're getting ding because you've got the beneficiary rule. So every time they get something, the executive, if they own more than 10%, it has to be known. And so they're getting identified. Their Social Security number is getting hit. So you can't just rely 100% on an automated response saying, okay, the rate's going to be at 7 for commercial. And from there, you've got, does the business itself support the debt if you're lending on that? And from there, you've got new startup businesses. A lot of it's going to be pro formas. Are you going to base it on what the projections are going to be? You know, that's not all, you know, you've got some industry standards, but you know, industry standards in Philadelphia, Pennsylvania are completely different from DeLand, Florida. It doesn't make sense.
Right, right.
So I found that those are very difficult to go. And then from there, you've got people that will start a new business, but yet they still have other outside income. So then you've got to look at a global cash flow. So there are some things that can automate. At the end of the day, you want to have consistency in reporting and always looking at, you know, certain figures, debt service coverage ratios, you know, debt to income ratios, you know, so loan to value. So you've got those set ratios. But at the end of the day, I find for commercial lending, you know, it's hard to really automate that process. You can automate the intake of tax returns, but every business has a separate individual item to look into. Yeah. And that you have to take out. So you have to have some judgment calls. You've got to get in there.
Yeah, it comes down to a judgment call because you're taking on that risk. You know, I think it's like, this is where the customer experience really is had for a smaller bank like yours compared to a big bank.
My goal is to get to the quickest yes and the quickest no for the customer. And you can gauge real quick. Some people that no, they're done with you. They don't want to hear anything. Some of them are like, okay, why didn't I qualify? And then those I love because you can sit down with and say, here's why we didn't qualify. And so many times we'll see that same person a year or two later and say, hey, I've improved these. And I love those because those end up turning into fantastic customers. Yeah.
It's like, you know, the big banks, the way it feels, I think any business owner having worked with a bank, they've automated it as much as possible just for mostly like compliance and legal and, you know, shareholder responsibility.
Well, especially on the small business side, what they've done now too is if you have a point of sale and you've got a credit card machine at your business, you're accepting that. They'll just look at those sales and then quickly say, all right, you know, your store's bringing in $100,000 a month in gross sales.
It's like a formula.
We're to 50, but they're going to be on that end, and every sale, instead of in 2 days, when you net the sales from the credit card sales, they'll take out the payments. So they've got control of that. Now you're going to be paying a lot higher rate because they automated too. Yeah. And that's what easier to get the money, but it is going to be a higher rate.
Yeah. So I think like the way you interface with your customers and the service you're providing, especially on the commercial lending side, is very similar to how I operate, because it's like boutique, or like, it's like not bespoke, because not every single person is exactly, unique. There's a lot of similarities, but I think it's about having a system and a process for intaking, and then the individual, which is the difference on your side from the big bank. There's a lot of individuals, but they don't think individually on the big bank. But you can have an individual that has a system or a process of how they decide, right? So it's still a process, but it's not automated. It's not robotic. It's not mechanic. No. But it's a guiding post for them to make a more, a more beneficial decision for the customer and for the bank. To me, that's a process. It may not be they do it, they ask the same question every single time, but it's a framework for them to think critically.
You have the same first, front loading questions, and then after you get that information, then that's where it kicks in. That's the additional questions.
Yeah. I think that's very informative, because I think that business owners that have tried to expand, especially with loans, have talked to big banks and felt that pain. And, it's just like, I'm just a human being over here. And really the manager can't look at my stuff. Well, first of all, look at it. They're not even looking at it, but then make a judgment call based on things that I'm telling you.
And not to defend some of the larger institutions, but I, do see that they've got employees out there. And if they're looking at small dollar loans, when I say $20,000, $50,000, $75,000, there's a lot of upfront cost. Yeah. They want to make the interest over the time. So if they have to have that individual loan always looked at, they're going to have to charge a lot more. And, you know, it's very difficult because the same amount of work can go into a $20,000 loan as a $500,000 loan. Right. And so forth and going forward. So, you know, they find their bucket and say, hey, we're going to do this. We're going to move on. That's why, I mean, that's also what makes U.S. great is there are small banks that'll take an institution. I don't know another country that has the community bank framework that the U.S. does. I was just in Costa Rica over the summer and stayed at a hotel that was on a larger ground that was, you know, Marriott properties. They had condos, they had individual residences, they had hotels on thousands of acres. And I was jogging one morning. I saw a guy that was installing gates, and he was a business owner, Costa Rican, and so he had the contract for Marriott installing the walls. He was building beautiful pebble walls, 6 foot. I mean, it's gorgeous.
It's amazing.
And I knew he was doing well. He was driving a Mercedes, and I asked him, I said, you know, do you borrow money to do these? You've got a lot of labor out here. You're probably spending, I don't know what your weekly cost is, but I imagine Marriott's probably paying you 30, 60 days net. To that.
At least.
And I'm like, so do you borrow? Do you have a line of credit that you're paying your workers before you get paid? And in the system, he goes, no. And I said, there's not a bank you go to? Yeah. He goes, yeah, if I go to the bank here and borrow $100,000. Now, this time rates were lower. So this was, you know, earlier this summer. So prime rate was still up 4 or 5. And he's like, no, I'd pay 10, 11%. And then every year I'd have to renew and pay another 2 points to attorneys and close this. So he's like, no, you got to save money.
Wow.
That's not the case here.
Yeah.
You know, so if that person has that contract with Marriott and he's got years of doing business in wall, and you can go out and see his work, fantastic work.
Yeah.
He's doing that. $100,000 line of credit he would have been able to get in the U.S. for 6.25%, and he wouldn't have had 2 points. We just look at his financials annually. Yeah. So, you know, we take it for granted.
It's true.
How much easier it is for business to get money here. So in Costa Rica, they had to save their money in order to grow.
You know, that's why immigrants do so well when they come here, because they've lived in such constraint, and they've had to. I mean, you look at how the Cubans live. You know, they have to like remanufacture everything that they do because there's not a lot of import that's coming there, and so when they come to the U.S., it's like, oh, you're going to give me lines of credit. You're going to like help me. The government's going to give me money. You know, like it's this
nuts.
Is
easy.
Yeah, it's nuts. So that to the point of constraint. I mean, I think I always love hearing these stories about entrepreneurs and business owners in other countries because they really make it happen. I've been and talked to a lot of business owners that don't even know if they're going to have electricity that day, and they're still positive and they're going to work as if they're going to have electricity. You know, it's amazing. All right. So we're going to wrap it up. You know, not to be a reductionist, but a business is only as good as its systems.
True. Absolutely.
Any final thoughts on systems?
You know, I know at the end of the day, it's daunting. You put in hard days work, but replicate, write them down, you know, keep your procedures.
Make it a priority.
Yeah. And just do it.